What can you expect as a graduate from the Impact programme? To build the tools and frameworks needed to refine your leadership style, refine your skills to face boardroom challenges, gain the aptitude to embrace boardroom opportunities, develop strategies and expertise for driving organisational change, increase your knowledge of innovative corporate governance practices, expand your capacity to understand, support and collaborate with your staff and senior executive, and access a global network of board leaders and a library of support and resources. That's how you make impact. And let's be honest, who doesn't want that? Visit us today at associationtransformation.org for more details and to sign up for our next 12-week modular learning programme. Because if you don't make impact, someone else will.
Well, hello, and welcome to the first Association Transformation of the new year. So excited.
Woo!
Happy New Year!
Happy 2021
is finally here. We can say goodbye to 2020 and all that it was and wasn't. But welcome to this ongoing conversation where we bring new and important and uncomfortable and fun conversations from the association world to light and bring you some amazing guests. This is our transatlantic conversation, and we're committed to driving mission-driven organizations forward. And I'm excited to welcome my counterpart and co-host, Mr. Andrew Chamberlain from Consort Strategies. Hello. And Happy New Year, Andrew.
Happy New Year to you too. How was your New Year?
Well, for Brewer Pratt Solutions, the new year is much very welcomed. We're excited to be in 2021. Did some travel in December and was masked up and safe, and now excited to start the new year. So
you had a Merry Christmas as well. I should ask that.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Did venture out and visit some family very carefully, but back to work and excited to restart our association transformation conversations. These are the deep dives that we love and that we started in 2021. It was the best thing of 2020 was really starting association transformation.
It's pretty much the only thing I did that I'm proud of. It's the only thing I did in 2020 that I'm proud of.
Oh, goodness. Part of the reason association transformation has survived and become something is really, I think, because of social media. We were all driven into our homes and dependent on internet and dependent on social media to know what was going on. And using social media has become a necessity. This is not an option for associations any longer. And for that reason, we wanted to bring a lead strategist on social media and social media marketing, and a friend of mine. I'm excited to welcome Carlin Ankrum, and she is the founder of OSnap Social. And social media is not something to be taken lightly. I know it's her passion, and she's directed me in many an opportunity to help me steer my social media. But Carlin, welcome to the first podcast of 2021. You're kicking off association transformations for us in the new year, and we want to welcome you. How was your holiday?
Set the benchmark for us.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so stoked to be here. Happy New Year. Thank goodness we made it out the other side. Maybe everything is always up in the air, and I'm so excited to be here and geeking out about social media with you guys.
Yes, making social media nerddom acceptable.
It's like my love language.
Are we doing that? Are we doing that? That's a big commitment. I'm not sure I want to make that commitment that we're going to make geekdom, nerddom acceptable. Do we?
You're already a nerd.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Yeah, okay. Let's go geek on then. Okay.
So let's start with the retrospective. Let's start with the retrospective. What did 2020 teach us and teach nonprofits and associations about social media? Where do we start with as our baseline experience?
So I think that came to light around March and April. People were still kind of stuck in their ways a little bit, like, well, this will all go away, this will fade out, we can kind of go back to business as usual. But around September, October, there was like something that switched, right? There was people that were like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. We really need to double down on our digital. And social media is a huge component of that. And it can't be ignored, as you mentioned, Elisa, like it cannot be ignored. So I think what we learned in 2020 is we need to double down on our digital. People were ignoring it in the beginning, and now they're like, oh, like this isn't going anywhere. We really need to take the reins, take control of our message, and share it with the masses in a way where people are already hanging out there. It's a missed opportunity if you are not taking digital seriously, especially as it comes to social media.
Well, and I think to your point, our members are already there. In the association space, whether you're supporting an industry, a profession, a community, the people you are serving, they're already there. And you're either meeting them there and providing them something there, or you're missing that platform. Agree, Andrew? I see you scowling.
Are they already there? I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm not sure I agree that our
You're
members
old.
already.
You're old though, so
no, I'm not that old. I'm younger than you. Why do we keep having this conversation?
Because you sound so curmudgeon-y about social media.
I'm not. I'm a massive fan of, info, Twitter, gram.
Cat videos don't count.
All I mean is, right, no, you're right. I mean, our members... No, I know you're not right. Some of our members are there, but I think a lot of the time, both the associations and their members are really, it's like dragging themselves through treacle, trying to get them to embrace social media in a constructive and proactive fashion, And I think part of that for me, I think a lot of it is, I think, just a simple lack of understanding of how to maximize the benefits of it, because there are so many channels out there. And what's a social channel? What's a work channel? What should we be chatting with our friends with? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? Seems to be so many unwritten rules about it as well. I think a lot of the time people are confused by it. Myself not included in that one. Thank you very much, Elisa. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, obviously you know it better than I do. Fun, but do you think that's fair, or do you think, that actually, people are more cottoned on than we think they give them credit for?
I think you are absolutely correct in that assumption. Like everyone feels overwhelmed by it too, I think. There's a lot of different platforms and where do we put this message or that message? But I always bring it back to keeping it as simple as possible is where is your audience hanging out? If they're not on Facebook, don't hang out there. If they're not on Instagram, don't hang out there. If your audience is on LinkedIn, double down your efforts there. Test and tweak your content going forward. Measure the results. That's the part that people forget to do is measuring what matters. And then expanding where you're putting your content and expanding where you're putting your message. So I'm with you.
Well, I think a lot of associations, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but social media is something that isn't a dedicated job description.
No.
It's something that in a lot of cases, it's the person who used to be the communications director and whatever form that used to be, writing press releases, newsletter articles, publishing for the association magazine. And now social media has just been thrown into the mix. Yeah. So it's this add-on and it's not specialized, it's not targeted. And I'll argue that in a lot of cases, it's not even respected as a true channel, as a true platform. So it's this throwaway or this add-on. And I think social media is something that most associations are missing. They're missing the boat on, they're missing the opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think, I would argue, if you can convey a message in 142 characters, that's a pretty clever way of marketing. Surely that's a sophisticated way of being able to communicate. Is if you can convey a message in a mere 2.5 sentences, not even that, 1.5 sentences. God, that's just tremendous. And free at the point of use, everybody should be. I mean, this sector is renowned for complaining that it never has enough money. So there's a resource there that should be exploited. And I know you can't pay for the add-ons, you can pay for the plugins, etc., if you want to. But fundamentally, it's a free at the point of use resource. And you're absolutely spot on. People are really failing to... And they are I think they're failing because they are so wedded to the concept of email newsletters as being the digital mechanism, the digital vehicle for engaging with people. Unless you write an encyclopedia of information to your membership once whatever it is, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, quarter, then you're not somehow adding value to their membership experience. Certainly that's how I'm seeing an awful lot of them. Is that true outside of the, I mean, obviously we're talking in the context of the association world, but do you find that, Carleen, do you find that is true outside, or I mean, I'm guessing in industry, perhaps in private commerce, they're more sort of adept?
Yeah, so you would think that. Um, but it's having the same problem, no matter the industry. If you have people that are cemented or wedded to a certain way of marketing, it's really hard for them to see the value of social because they haven't spent enough time there. Social media is a long-term game. You have to be in it to win it. You have to be willing to test and tweak because just because
Mm,
this type of content works for this audience over here or that organization over there doesn't mean it's going to work for yours. So you have to have someone that is a subject matter expert in social media to really dig in the trenches because to your point, Andrew, you're absolutely spot on. Like writing two sentences to convey a message is different than writing a full blown press release or a full blown email newsletter. Social media is not there to replace any of these items, it's there to amplify them.
mm.
And I think that's what people miss.
I think so. I think a lot of that is because, as you say, Elisa, a lot of it is resource driven. Some poor soul who is the communications person. This is another add-on to their job, and you're right. I don't think they give it enough resources dedicated to even understanding its potential, never mind to maximizing its potential. So I can fully appreciate why that happens. But what I fail to appreciate is why it's still why do I think it's still going to continue happening is why I struggle with.
Well, you know what? I was intimidated by it, I'll admit it, in the development of my business and had not truly harnessed it as an association staff person. But, one thing that Carlin kind of taught me and was not to be afraid of the content development. And I'll turn to Carlin to explain this, but it's just about repurposing. It's magically using the same stuff you're already creating for those newsletters, those emails, and just chopping it up and distributing it in the right way. I mean, Carlin, what
Yeah.
do you tell your association and even for-profit clients about the magic of content?
Yes, repurposing is the way to do it. I think a lot of the times we totally get overwhelmed and then we get paralyzed by trying to come up with, a piece of content going out every single day. And so then we don't do anything. So, how can you take that one piece of content and maybe as an organization, you decide, okay, what is this domino piece of content that kind of is the one that sets the rest of the workflow into motion? So, for example, for me, for my own business, it's video content. Why? Because no one else can be me on video, plain and simple. If you are an association, maybe it's that press release and where you can pull out different facts and figures and nuggets to attract members into your organization. But you've already spent time writing the press release, vetting the press release, it's ready to go. How can you take that one thing that you've spent time, resources, money, and create bite-sized pieces from that? Whether it's 5 tweets, three like animation things that you can do in Canva. Like the possibilities are absolutely endless, but we just have to start thinking differently. Think, repurpose always. It doesn't need to be complicated.
I mean, I find associations are not short on content. I mean, between websites and newsletters and magazines and email marketing, there's content everywhere. They're generating the content. They're just letting it
Mm-hmm.
go to
Mm-hmm.
waste.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I do agree. I do agree because even when you're talking there, I really like that point. No one else can be me on video. I like that. I'm playing the part today of Andrew Chamberlain will be Lisa Pratt. Oh, you're right. No one else can be, and I really like that. But yeah, the fact that actually I see nobody in the association sector really embracing the use of video. Crikey, we're an anomaly here, perhaps not so much in the US, but in the UK. The fact that we've got a podcast makes us stand out as being as different. And yet, I mean, how old is podcasting? It's been going on for a long time, and only a couple of associations in the UK have embraced it as an opportunity to communicate, albeit in a more elongated way than a tweet or a LinkedIn post or whatever. It's still, in terms of I think it points to a larger lack of understanding and appreciation of a digital strategy. Full stop. But then one of the things I really struggle with, and I wouldn't be surprised if some associations are struggling to understand the value when the attention economy is so short, for want of a better phrase. Trying to compete, grab people's attention when there are literally millions of pieces of information flying in front of them through very many different channels. I can imagine that sometimes and associations, I was thinking, don't want to put resource into that. No one's going to read those tweets. It's just another piece of white noise in front on their iPhone or their iPad or what have you. I mean, certainly, from a business perspective, we spend a lot of time investing in our social media presence, but you do sit there sometimes and think, oh, I don't know why I bother doing that. 4 people looked at it, whereas I know what you're going to say. I know what you're laughing at, Elisa. Whereas a gazillion people always like everything that Elisa does on social media. I get nothing. I get no traction whatsoever.
Andrew has social media envy. He has social media envy.
I do.
And that's the subject of a different podcast and a different therapy session. So we can leave that.
You're right. But the piece about the attention economy is, however, valid. My envy may not be, but the attention economy piece is valid because there is so much going on out there. How do you even begin to penetrate the noise and the vision, that's out there?
Well, first of all, I think consistency is key. I will forever say that on any type of social platform. If you want to show up regularly and get that social media attention, you have to show up consistently so your audience is aware that you exist. And it's easy to say, like, oh, there's so much noise. Like, I don't want to be part of the noise. Well, if you don't show up ever, it's like you don't exist. And so I am like, try it, test it, learn from it, keep going, because it's a long-term game. And that's the thing that I try to tell everyone, because they're like, I just posted this, I got nothing. I'm like, well, then did you help start a conversation? Was it engaging? Did you go and help and like other people's content or no? Because this is a conversation. Social is a conversation. It's not just to push out content. It's to have that engagement.
When you say consistent, are you equating that to quantity?
Cadence of content. So if you're like, I can do 3 posts a week every single week, great, do that. If you're like, I can go every single day, great, do that. But whatever it is, be consistent about it, right, and show up regularly. Because if you don't, they're gonna be like, where were they? They weren't here yesterday.
And 2020 was the year of digital discomfort. Everyone's hand was forced with virtual events, with putting out information digitally because we couldn't get together in person. And I can't believe that there's any organization still questioning this. And whether it's promoting a virtual event, or it's releasing your annual report this year, or having an online holiday party, whatever it might have been in December. I mean, people are now, whether they wanted to or not, are now more comfortable in a digital space. So how do we then help them make that jump to social media and see social media as a piece of that? What's the first step for these organizations that have been resistant or uncomfortable?
I think it's showing their competitors. Like, that's the thing that I feel like always like ignites a fire under people, and saying like, well, they're doing this, they're getting the attention. You are missing an opportunity here to reach people at a, 1, less expensive way than running any type of paid anything. And 2, you're missing the option of finding new people, new lookalike people that look like your other audience, and bring them into your fold. through sharing. And I think there's a whole way that, from a strategic standpoint, these associations can set up an amazing, like even like a engagement strategy within themselves to just amplify, amplify, amplify. And they're just missing the opportunity because they're like, oh, no one's going to find that, no one's going to listen to that. But if you're not online, you don't exist. It's like window shopping without the window. There's just nothing there.
Well, you've developed a program called the Fan Firestarter Strategy. And if we put that in the context of associations, so that they have a very, it's laid out, it's clear cut how to get started. What can associations take from the Fan Firestarter Strategy?
Yeah, so it's very simple. It is kind of three big buckets. One is like pulse check. Pop the hood on your social media, check on the numbers. What are they telling you? Are they telling you that that piece of content worked really well? Are they saying that one tanked? And then you have to kind of put on the human hat and say, okay, the numbers are saying this. As a human, was it because it was posted on a holiday weekend? Like if you're posting something today on a Monday or tomorrow on a Tuesday, and maybe yesterday's did really well and today's tanked, you got to figure out and adjust, tweak and adjust. That's where the human kind of analytical standpoint comes from. Then it moves on to strategy. What are your goals with social media? What do you want? Do you want to drive traffic to your membership page? Do you want to get more email signups so you can nurture people into the membership, right? What do you want them to do? What's that quantitative thing from a strategy approach? And then finally, advance. So the advance is like implementing, managing, and then kind of going back to the analyze. So really taking time to craft compelling content that then, oh, by the way, goes back to your strategy and your goals that you've aligned for yourself, and kind of rinse and repeat that in a very cool and simple cyclical kind of pattern.
What about the... Oh, go on. Sorry, Lisa. Go on. You finish this. Go on.
No, please. You're having a thought. I don't want to interrupt this.
No, I am having a thought. You're right. I am. It's hurting a little bit. To be honest, it's yeah. You carry on with the. I want to hear more about the Fan Firestarter framework. Go try and saying that after you've had a few beers.
I like alliteration. I can't help it.
But I do want to hear more. So, I mean, is it an actual, this strategy, this framework rather, is it a concept, or is it an actual, forgive me for not knowing, is it a concept, or is it an actual tangible thing? Is it something I can actually use? Does it physically exist?
Yeah, so the pulse check and the strategy are like physical things. So you can like build out a strategy. You can do a pulse check, I think, is a less scarier way of saying audit. Like you audit your metrics and kind of create those benchmarks. So when you are actually putting your plan, your strategy that you've created into motion, you have something to measure it against. So we started here. This is what we want to build. Here's the implementation of what we're going to do. And on the implementation side of the house, that gives you like the fun, like content calendars, content buckets. What does that mean? What are the different themes that we're going to be capturing? And then developing it, for the next several months, maybe in one sitting, going back to our repurposing strategy we talked about earlier.
Oh, I like what you did there. I like what you see that. Oh my! It's like you should do this for a living. Honestly,
I know.
Yeah.
So, Carlin, it's the beginning of a new year, and you have two organizations. One that's just started and really come to appreciate social media, and one that used 2020 to develop and get serious about social media. What should each of their goals for this new year be?
Well, it depends. I know that's like the PC answer.
That was the cop-out answer, wasn't it? Oh my God. Here's my fence. I'm going to sit on it.
Yeah. Scenarios.
Well, the thing is, if you have something up and running and going, if you're the organization that's like use 2020 as kind of the testing ground, and I want people to be encouraged to look back and look at the numbers, like geek out on the numbers, get really clear about what content worked, what content didn't. And if you did not already have a goal associated with the content you were creating, now's the time to do that. I always say, make sure you set your goals knowing that they can ebb and flow as strategy and the time goes on throughout the year. But maybe Q1, what is your Q1 goal? Is it to get more members? Is it to, well, it's always the goal, right? Is it to increase your email list? What is the goal? I want to increase my email list by 5% in Q1. Okay, what does that mean? If you have 10,000 emails now, what does that number look like? So just putting it on paper. It's one thing to be like, have it be like a pie in the sky kind of idea, but map it out. Put it on paper, stick it on a sticky note, put it on your desk, and make sure that the team is aligned with it. Have a strategy meeting for if you're part of the marketing department. If you are the marketing department by yourself, listen. Have that little one-to-one meeting with yourself and start to map it out. Because I think people get frustrated around social media when they didn't actually put a goal to it. They're like, this isn't working. Well, then I ask, okay, great. What are you trying to measure? Likes. I'm like, that's not a measurement. That's like valid. So what is the conversion out the other side of that social content?
Yeah.
See, Andrew, don't put too much importance in likes. It's not about likes. It's not a popularity contest.
Says the popular person. Yeah, I think it's interesting. You say, one of the things I think we're not in the association world not particularly good at. We focus a lot on recruitment, not so hot on retention. There's often, sometimes we're not quite blasé, but it's almost taken. Well, yeah, no, we are blasé about it. It's like once we've got them, once we've nabbed them and we've got their direct debit set up or the cash in the bank, we don't worry so much about them. But actually, I think I think to my mind that social media lends itself probably more so to the retention piece than to the recruitment piece, because obviously when you recruitment, you're coming at someone cold. You obviously need quite a lot of lead-in time to get that your presence, your brand understood, recognized, familiar. Whereas your members, and you want to keep them there, you want to be demonstrating value proposition to them, you want to be holding on to them in the long term. It always strikes me that social media really lends itself to that part of the to the engagement process, which again, associations are not doing enough to exploit it, is my feeling.
Well, that there's so many more audiences than just membership. And Carlin's, she's mentioned it. Of course, members are your target, but there's your internal audience, there's your external audience, and then there's your public, whether that is those who are donors, those are customers of your industry, or even elected officials. Your audience. Your audience personas, I think there are more than people really appreciate. And your opportunity to, my favorite word from Carlin is amplify. There are so many messages to amplify and missions to amplify within your organization. I still think back to that organization that's small and doesn't think they have the resources, and everyone's doing a little bit of tweeting here and there. And so they think they have a social media strategy. How does an organization start? What is that goal? What's an honest and realistic goal? Is it about simply creating the channels, or is it about measuring right off the bat?
You're gonna have to repeat that question. I cut out a little bit.
Oh no, should an organization who hasn't really embraced social media, is the short-term goal just to get on every channel, or to start measuring? What's the first step? I need kind of that new year, New Year's resolution. I'm taking on social media. What are the first 2 steps to start this journey in the new year?
First 2 steps. The first step is to make sure you know who your audience is. Now, going back to, we could have 3 different audiences very easily, and they each deserve attention. But what is your goal? So for Q1, if it's to retain 85% of our membership, great. We need to be finding wherever your current members are. That's the channel you need to be going on first, and doing it well, doing it consistently, and measuring what works and doesn't work, and reevaluating the strategy. If you don't know who your audience is, you cannot be effective. It's plain and simple. You cannot be effective. So you have to know who your audience is, who the audience you're going after as it relates to your overall goals for the quarter or the half of the year. and build content for them. Like, you have to distinguish a primary audience, period.
I wonder how many associations, when they're capturing member data, be it through the recruitment process or the renewal process, I wonder how many of them are actually capturing their social media handles and their profiles, and you're asking them, what do you prefer? Do you prefer LinkedIn? Do you prefer Twitter? Where do you what's your?
Right,
I
where do you
wonder
hang
how
out?
many are, because I'm sitting there thinking, right, okay, if I got 10,000 members, how do I even begin to understand? Short of the most hideous data mining exercise ever, how do I even begin to know where they all are? But obviously, we have processes to capture their names and their email addresses and their bank details. I just wonder how many are doing that. In your experience, Colin, with the association world, are associations doing that?
Some are getting on the bandwagon. I wouldn't say many, and it's typically what I've seen is just like a simple like checkbox. It's not like give me your
Yeah.
handle. It's just like where do you interact most? And it's like check all that apply. And then they check, and then some people just select them all, and some people are like none of the
Yeah.
above, and then some people only select a few. But what they forget to kind of position it as is for business or for, you know, professional use or however you want to frame it, because just because I
Yeah.
like Instagram doesn't mean that my clients exist on Instagram,
Yeah.
right? Like just because I like to use Instagram doesn't mean that's where I hang out for business per se.
Yeah. Yeah. But what if we flip it on his head and say, well, actually, I mean, I often don't get thanked for saying this, but membership bodies are just service providers, right? You join a membership body to get a service. Now, whatever that is, professional development, networking, resources, information, fine. But it's still, I'm paying a fee to receive a service. What's wrong with me just saying, as the service provider, these are the platforms we're on. These are the 3 platforms that we're on. If you want to engage with us on social media terms, that's the 3 platforms that your service provider engages with. Rather than me trying to understand the market, why can't the market understand me?
That's not how social media works.
I'm just trying to push the boundaries here a
The
little
devil's
bit.
advocate side. It's good.
Yeah, this is Andrew's world. We're all just living in it. Sorry.
I don't
But-
mean me personally. That was a third person rhetorical question.
Sorry.
Right? I didn't mean why doesn't everyone's members follow me? Because we know they won't. If I was Elisa, they'd follow you. Sorry, I just can't get rid of this chip
Oh
on
my
my
gosh,
shoulder.
the new year starts off with a little
I've broken my resolution already. I swore I wouldn't get upset about the number of likes you get, but I've broken that one already.
Oh my goodness. I think we're talking about 2 sides of the same coin, Carlin. I mean, you need to push and you need to pull, right? I mean, it's about driving people to your social media channels,
Yeah.
telling them where they are, telling your members where you are, where they can find information, where they might get first release or registration information, but also going to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that. But I want to go back as well to the point you mentioned. I have a different persona depending on which platform we're using, depending on which audience we're targeting. Social media companies are getting an increasingly bad rap and a poor reputation, some of them, for the way they handle data. Really? Are you sure? But their brands aren't necessarily squeaky clean. And so sometimes is it not a consideration? Do I want to be associated with a brand? I'm not even going to, just in case we get sued and my liability insurance doesn't cover us, I'm not going to mention a particular brand. But should that be a consideration? If I'm a bit concerned about the business practices or the business ethics of a particular system provider, should they be factoring that into my thinking, or should I just say, nah, go with the market? That's what everyone is.
Well, I am a big social media fan, so I'm going to say everyone already has all the data on me anyway. So there's that.
Right.
And then
yes, okay.
the other side of the coin, like you check the little box that said, yes, have all of my data. Great. Thanks. Please and thank you. Now grant me access to your platform. But at the same time, You just have to understand like what your core values are as an organization and what the best practices are for engaging in that type of data transfer, if you will, and make sure that that is in alignment. You won't want to take the risk if that's something that is like not is going to be detrimental to your own organization. But you know, even more importantly, as an aside here, is yes, they have all of your data, but if you're doing nothing to drive traffic from that point of data to your own data points, like whether it's collecting
Fair
email
point. Yeah.
addresses, you are missing the boat because 10,000 likes means nothing unless you got 10,000 emails in your email subscription inbox.
Yeah. And that's something that Carlin taught me in my own business is those platforms could go away at any moment. They could commercialize to a price point I could never afford. So having connections on any of them or groups or friends or whatever it may be, unless I'm exporting them in a way that I can then use, or I'm driving them to to real estate that I own, that social media real estate is not mine to control or contain or to direct. So it's really just a pass through. It's a push through to where I want them to be, which is my own online community on my website, my own association website, to create a profile and to interact with me directly. Because LinkedIn could charge $1,000 a year starting tomorrow, or whatever it may be.
I think that's a really good point, which is why I think you've hit.
Wait. Are you saying I'm right? Hold on. Stop the presses.
Well, I'm sorry. I think the recording just went. Oh no, is that right, producer? Izzy, our producer, saying we missed that one. Sorry.
New year, more of the same.
I think I'm always reluctant when I see people talking about oh, we're going to set up this new forum. Let's all have this ability to communicate one another. Let's just use a LinkedIn group, or let's just use a Facebook group, or whatever. And it's like, for those reasons, I think you've articulated what it is that I've not been able to articulate or understand why I always have these reservations about using those types of platforms, because of it's because of they're uncertain in that sense, I just wanted to make the point that you were right. Okay, there you go.
Yay! Wait, play that back. I'm going to make that into a promo.
I'm going to make it into your ringtone. Make it into your ringtone.
I am going to make it my ringtone.
Repurpose it.
Repurpose that content. I'm going to have like a little talking cat say, Elisa's right. Make a GIF. It'll be everywhere.
Well, that's a nice time to wrap up now, everybody. I hope you'll join us next year on our 2022 edition of this podcast. Carleen, where can we find more information about Fan Firestarter Strategy?
osnapsocial.com.
osnapsocial.com. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us this week. I have, contrary to Elisa's efforts, I've enjoyed this conversation. You watch this, though. You watch this. I'll put this pod out. I'll put this podcast out. She'll do the same. She'll get a gazillion people loving it.
Oh my gosh! Let me get my social media violin.
Mine would be the smallest. Mine would be the smallest social media violin in the world. I'd be lucky even to get my own team to like my. Never mind.
God.
Anyway.
Playing the victim another year in a row.
Right, we're gonna reconvene in 12 months. We're gonna talk about how 2021 went for our social media presence. I think it'd be really I think it seriously would be good to bring you back in. I'd actually like to bring in a couple of association colleagues as well, so that we can have a round table around actually. We're sitting here, the three of us are talking about and we're drawing on our own experiences, but it would be useful, I think, also maybe to get somebody in around the table next year and we can have a chat about, well, what's it been like for you in reality, Anyway, thank you very much for joining us this week. I really appreciate you doing so. And obviously, Elisa, thank you as well. I'm so looking forward to the rest of this year already. My God, we're only 4 days in. If you've enjoyed listening to this week's pod, God knows why. If you've enjoyed listening to us, then you can find us on all the usual platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Deezer, other ones. Overcast. That's one I found out the other day. Yeah, we're on all of the usual platforms. So if you look for at Association Transformation and subscribe, then hopefully you won't miss any of our episodes. If you'd like to join us on the pod, then do please tweet us at Association Transformation, or you can email us hello@yourconsort.com, and we'll do our best to pull on our network and pull together a pod that we think will be worth listening to. I think now 2021, this is us starting to go weekly, isn't it, Elisa? These are our weekly pods.
This is our first weekly episode.
Excellent.
So we'll be back this time next week.
We will be back this time next week. Fantastic. Well, yes. Well, you will be. But until next time, stay well and put your members and your mission first. Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.
What sort of leader do you want to be? Why should others follow you? What does your association need and expect? One thing is for sure, we all need impact. Impact is a 12-week modular-based learning program representing the knowledge and competencies that experienced and high-performing directors are expected to possess, forming the basis of impactful board leadership. To find out more and to register now for the next available course, visit us at associationtransformation.org and ensure you have impact.